Hi, friends and friends of friends. Welcome to the Still Podcast Author Series Season 2. This season's guests are authors who write books for children, the young readers to teenagers, and even those who are still young at heart. During each episode, you will learn more about the writer and their books. I bet you will find a new author and new books to love. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoy an episode, please leave a comment or respond to one of the poll questions at the end of an episode, or follow me on one of my social accounts. And of course, tune in next time.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Still Podcast Author Series. I'm here with Heather Still, who is the creator of this wonderful podcast. So a number of months back, Heather invited me to have a conversation about my writing, and it is my pleasure now to ask Heather questions about her own writing and her author journey. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for welcoming me and for doing the switch up. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. I'm so happy to do it as well, Heather. I had the opportunity to read your first book, which is Sean's Survival Guide, and I really loved your book. I thought it was really well thought out, very engaging. There were several parts where I was, really wondering what's going to happen. And I'm wondering, what was your inspiration for writing a book for this type of audience and the storyline that you chose?
Okay, first off, thank you for reading the book. It's awesome. Wait, how do you do the heart? Thank you. Thank you for reading the book. So Sean's Survival Guide, as you know, I'm a sixth grade teacher, but I chose to write about surviving seventh grade because from my experience, that was the hardest year. It was so icky. Um, that's my word, icky. And, when I teach seventh graders, because last year I had seventh and eighth graders for my electives. And when I teach seventh graders, I just have this big empathy for them. I feel so bad for them because I know what awful time it is. So that was really the big inspiration seventh grade was the hardest year for me. I just see, my adorable sixth graders, they leave and they come back the next year and some of them are the same. Some of them are totally different human beings. And then you put them in class together, sometimes for 3 hours because they have a lot of classes together. So for me, surviving seventh grade, it's all about the social aspects. I don't think the academics, the curriculum is all that difficult. I hope not. As a sixth grade teacher, I hope it's not. I hope my
Mhm.
students are prepared for that. And it's really about the friendships, the survival, the social game.
Yeah, I really felt it in your work. It brought me back to what it was like at that time. It's so awkward because you're not really developed as to who you are inside, and there's so much peer pressure. And I really felt it. You wrote the book in first person, so you were, the readers like right inside of Sean's head, and you get to experience all the doubt that he has and the choices he has to make, and the choices that are going to serve him best or serve the people around him best, or just make him popular, And I really like the way you were able to get into the mind of the main character. I felt like it it helps the reader to experience what it's like, and I'm sure someone who is of that age would relate to it. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been that age, and I could relate to it.
Well,
I'm wondering also if there are any characters that really stood out to you, like a favorite character that you enjoyed writing.
okay. Well, so first off, it's a little weird. My debut book is first person from a boy's point of view, which I'm clearly not a boy, wasn't never a boy. But I did, between my students and my sons, I mean, my sons went through all of that friendship challenge, especially sixth grade was actually kind of a big one for one of my sons, but sixth and seventh grade. So, and when I was writing his point of view, I was reading a lot of the Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson, right? So you have the sarcastic narrator,
Uh-huh.
so I kind of dug deep into the sarcasm for Sean and the self-deprecation. So I did have a lot of fun writing him. Um, Other favorite characters, of course, Kayla is a favorite character of mine. I have, I wrote a book with her point of view. And then
Oh,
Dante Garcia is a fun character. I have fun with him because he's the super popular boy that you kind of expect to be a jerk, but he's got a lot of redeeming qualities and he's super loyal. Like if
Yes.
you're his friend, he's super loyal. So I have a lot of fun writing him as well.
You had a really good, assortment of characters, that was I felt like it was really, relatable to what you would find in middle school and high school as well, and, I really liked the Kayla character, that she was very warm and also kind of like her own person. She had a certain, confidence in who she was, but she had the insecure side as well, the sort of vulnerable side. I really like the way you got into the mind of each character and also the Courtney character, we all know a Courtney.
Yeah.
We've all suffered at the attack of a Courtney.
And that's a wonderful way to say it. We've all had that, our nemesis slash enemy. And a lot of times it was someone we previously knew well. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you for that.
I could
Oh,
also tell, that you definitely ooh, very good, there it
it's the
is.
book.
Nice. It was an easy read, it was very engaging. And I found that you also had a couple of unexpected things in there, a couple little twists that I was wondering where the story, was gonna take us, and there were a couple of things you put in there that took me by surprise that were very well planned and, different from what I expected, so good for you for creating such a lovely story and, and an entertaining read that was also really thoughtful, it was really, I could really feel the characters.
So thank you for that. I did try to like give an ending that was both a good satisfying ending, but maybe not exactly what you expected. So the little twist. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it wasn't a predictable ending, that I like that very much, it wasn't like your Hallmark movie where you can pretty much just tally up everything that's gonna happen, and in the end, you go, "Okay, it's done."
Right. Right. And also thank you so much for the list of the mistakes you found. And yes, I'm keeping this in the podcast because that is part of being an author and getting published. Um, and when you get traditionally published, there's still those mistakes. I find them in traditionally published books all the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then there's nothing authors can do about them. Authors have no control. So because I'm an indie author, I've already made the changes and published it. And so and fixed those 9, I think it was 9 errors. And it's so frustrating because, I mean, yes, I paid an editor to do the proofreading. However, after I got the proofreads back, my son made a great comment about the character Tuck. And so I went in and I changed things for Tuck. And in changing things, my editor never saw that. And so where my editor did a great job and my dad caught stuff and my son caught stuff. It's there were still like 9 errors. So thank you so much for noting them. I
Oh,
hope that the book is as flawless and error-free as possible now.
I know that when, I send my work to people I know and they make, notes of some corrections, I really appreciate it myself. I mean, when I edit, I do it so many different ways. Like, I do a read through, and then I have, the read aloud on Word, read it to me, because then auditory, you catch mistakes that your eyes don't catch. And then I do that several times, and then I have the book printed, the author copy, and then I read it in print, which is another experience, and you find other errors. And then that's pretty much the whole process. And then there are still errors. And I noticed too that the way choosing to be first person, a male character and a young male character is certainly not something I could take on or would take on, but I can see that you have experience, raising sons, and also you have the experience with sports. It's not an area that I'm familiar with at all, but there was a fair bit of mention in that, and because the characters are involved in sports, so that I thought that was really great. I was a bit in awe of that because it's not something I could touch at all.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I leaned heavily on my sons and they're 19 and they're still playing a ton of Xbox with their friends. Like it's still just as much a part of their life now as it was, you know, back in middle school. Probably even more now, to be honest. Um, but also having played soccer and coached soccer and refereed soccer, soccer was just kind of a good go-to sport for me to use.
That's great. So
Yeah.
now what are your plans in terms of the next goals for writing?
Okay, so I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. I have written the sequel to Sean's survival guide. It is called Kayla's Breakup Survival Guide. So I pick up the story the day back from winter break when her and Sean, of course, have their big breakup. And I'm really excited about this book. I think it's better. It doesn't have the sarcasm and the self-deprecating humor of Sean, because that's Sean. That's definitely not Kayla. But I'm really excited about the book. And there's more than one breakup. And of course, breakups in middle school, especially, a lot of times it's more the friend breakup than a relationship. I mean, I think maybe not even 10% of middle school students are in a relationship, right? But most of them, like a huge over 90%, have experienced a friend breakup. And so Kayla's breakup survival guide is going to be just a whole bunch of learning friendships and a little bit of relationships and
Well, I
learning.
definitely like to read that one. I'm not your target audience, but I found I actually learned something by reading your book because I did not have any middle school boyfriend. I mean, I was 17 when I had my first boyfriend. So I guess I didn't really understand when I saw other kids having like boyfriends and girlfriends. I didn't really understand how that worked. And by reading your book, I kind of got the idea that it really wasn't about too much, too much. It's just like a start, just delving into, this pond a little bit, right?
Right. And I think that is the majority of relationships in middle school. It's
Mm.
just the holding hands, the learning, the balance, not too much other stuff. Now, not that I had a boyfriend in middle school, because I certainly didn't. But my son had a girlfriend in 7th grade for a little bit. He didn't tell me about it until afterwards, of course, so I have no idea what her name is. Um, but he definitely delved a little bit more into the dating pool there. Thank goodness for sons.
Yeah, I have a son and a daughter as well. And well, I've seen a lot of drama with,
Mhm.
with my son, but my daughter hasn't delved too much into that arena. So you and I met at the 20 Books Vegas conference, and I'm wondering if you can tell me what what you got out of that conference, if it helped with your writing and what you enjoyed the most.
I think almost a year later, I can still say it was life changing. And really quickly, up until a year ago, June of 2023, I was looking to be traditionally published. That is where a writer finds an agent and then you get, an agency, and then you look for a publisher to publish the book. And it could take several years. And then once you do find that match, it could still take, a couple of years. And I was doing that up until June of 2023 when I lost my dog unexpectedly.
Oh.
He died at 4.5. We had him since a puppy. It was just devastating. But that, in also losing my mom, you realize how short life really can be. And I have a ton of manuscripts. I've got 5 or 6 young adult manuscripts and a couple others in my computer. Now, none of them are ready to be published, but that was kind of my, you know what? I'm going to self-publish. I can make it work. And I think in July, I signed up for 20 books. So I went into this convention in Las Vegas all about, how to self-publish with no knowledge.
Mhm.
I was at ground zero. And
Yeah.
so I had this huge, huge area to backfill. I learned so much. I think I went to 2 book funnels, and book funnel does seem to be a really great resource for writers. I keep seeing it mentioned, especially if you want to give out free books,
Yes.
if you will, for your newsletter. You can also do direct sales through book funnel, but it's just a great way to um, provide digital resources, I think was exactly what it was mentioned. So I think learning about book funnel and I think also meeting you and all of the other writers that we're still in touch with. I mean, we meet once a month
Yes.
on Zoom. That was absolutely huge. And just learning from them,
Yes.
it's been great.
It is, it's really inspiring. It's, a real feeling of supporting each other, also sharing information and encouraging each other. I That's been wonderful for me as well. Is there anything that you took away from the conference in specific that really stands out then, or?
Yes. Write the book. Get it, you want to write a good book, the best book you can, get it edited, have a nice cover, publish it, move on to the next one, write the next book, take what you learned from the first one, make this one better, write a better next book. And
Exactly.
keep at it, keep publishing, don't give up. I think that was really it. The perseverance and just keep at it. And
It's so
I
true.
y-
It's so true because, you hear all the time about people who've been writing a book for 20 years, and they still, haven't finished it, or they still doubt their skills. And I think the only way that you can truly get over that doubt is to have the courage to finish something and put it out there and say, "I'm a writer, and I'm I'm putting my stuff out there for people to read," you know?
right. And I think a big key is I'm looking for other writers who aren't in it for one book, right? I'm looking for writers who I can share my writing with, that we can give each other feedback, help each other, and then be ready for the next book. So not just a one book.
Yeah, it's kind of an old idea of, writing the book of your life, and it's going to be so fantastic, and you're going to buy your mansion on the hill or something from your one book. I think either you really love to write, or you don't. If you love to write, you're going to want to write more than one book. And this day and age too, perseverance and continuing to push yourself and grow from it will enrich in your writing and get you a following that way. Isn't that true?
Right. And I don't have my notes with me, but I was just listening to a webinar from Self-Publishing Formula. They had their annual thing in London in June, and I just did the digital one.
Mhm.
And one of the guys on there who, gosh, he said that when he first published his first book back in 2018 or 2012, I can't remember which, because there's two different guys I listened to. He made $18.
Yes.
But fast forward to 2021, and that same book that made $18 is a bestseller.
Wow.
He spends 1 million to make 3 million a year. Like, he has written a ton of books, but that first book was good. It just took for years before it went anywhere.
Well, I would certainly spend 1 million to make 3 million.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's where he is now.
That's great. Yeah, you just never know. And, they say in terms of finding success that people often stop just short of finding success. I don't know how they measure that. But I'm guessing it's by talking to people who have made success in their lives and said, "I was just about to give up."
Yeah. You just and keep writing. I've made the tough decision. I was going to move to I have a sweet romance series I'm writing, and I had hoped to start publishing it in October, and I've made the decision to wait until next October
Oh,
because
okay.
I've discovered I can't write a book in 3 months.
Okay.
Kayla's Breakup Survival Guide was 6 months from beginning to end, and that's this month is the sixth month, and that's what I need. So
Yes.
I made this really aggressive publishing schedule where I was writing a book and publishing basically every 3 months, and
Yeah.
I can't do that. So
It's really important to recognize, what works for you and what your limits are, especially because you are working as a teacher. I mean, I have a business on the side, but I have a lot of flexibility. I don't have set hours, and I can spend a lot of time writing. So if I want to, write a book in 2 months, I could probably set that goal, but, none of it's gonna cause you all sorts of stress. I think part of the journey is that it should be a joyous process, right?
Right.
The joy of writing your book. And
Right.
I find sometimes too, working to a very strict deadline might impede the whole flow of how it unfolds, like naturally, because sometimes while you're writing, you might have a plot, but it can unfold in its own way, in a way that even makes the book better, right? I don't know if you find that with your writing.
Yes. And I mentioned you recommended a book, Plot Perfect, I think, by Paula Munier. And that has been huge for me. Thank you so much. It's just, I knew there was something missing. And it was just a reminder to make sure there's conflict in every scene. And if
Right.
there's no conflict in that scene and it's not like super important to character development or whatever, get rid of it. And so that's kind of where I am right now, is just making sure I have the goal, the motivation, and conflict in every scene.
Yes, absolutely. I found the book helped me a lot too. I started to review, not only the characters to make sure they were strong enough, but to have, every scene have something that is engaging.
Mhm.
It's sort of like sharing, your like croissant at Starbucks on social media. It's like nobody cares. You can't have a scene that isn't, you know, pulling at someone's heartstrings or making them ask questions, you know? So is there any advice that you have for other new indie authors that you would share about the writing process or the publishing process?
Yes, thank you so much for asking. I think one of the hardest things for a writer to do is to share their writing. I the only reason I started sharing my writing was because I joined I did an MFA program, a Master of Fine Arts in Writing, where you have to share your writing and others respond to it. And that is the hardest thing.
Mhm.
And so for anyone out there who's writing, the first step is to get into a writers group where you share your writing and they give and you read their writing. And it's not enough to just be sharing your writing and getting feedback. You also need to be learning how to give your own feedback about other writers' writing, right? Because you make each other stronger. I had a wonderful writers group. There was just three of us, but we were meeting once a month and it was consistent and we made each other better writers. So I think
That's
that's one, is make sure you share your writing with others, and also keep improving on your craft. One of the reasons I'm pausing on my romance series is I want to add more comedy. And a few years back, I was pretty strong in comedy because I took a class in it. I read a bunch of books in it, and that was a few years ago. So I'm rereading those books
yes.
and trying to revisit for the my rom-com series. And so once again, returning reading craft. Oh, another book on is Steering the Craft by Ursula K. Le Guin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, gonna read that book.
I'll
So
have to look at that. Yeah.
and third thing is read. Like writers read. And I just came across, I think it was Stephen King, that if you don't have time to read, you shouldn't be writing. Um, there
It
you
is quite a juggle between reading and writing. I mean, I'm not a fast reader, but I
go.
do read. I haven't read fiction probably since I was in my 20s, but when I started writing the fiction, I got a number of books within the historical period genre, and it's helped a lot. I mean, there are so many different ways of writing. I was very it's really nice to treat to read someone else's work. When I read your book is very different from my writing, so it's really nice to read how someone else thinks and puts their ideas forward and creates nuances in relationships, and the rating really benefits your writing. It's something that every writer should be doing for sure.
Mhm.
And I like
Yeah.
the idea of the comedy too in the romance. I mean, not every romance is comedy related, but I love to put a little humor into my romance as well. So
And I
much.
think any genre benefits from some humor, even nonfiction. I actually have a comedy adding humor to your writing lesson that I used to teach to my digital journalism students. And now that I'm not teaching digital journalism, I'm pretty sure my sixth graders are going to get it.
Nice.
But I think it's there's little tools you can use to just, slip it in here and there.
Very nice. Well, it's been really wonderful chatting with you, Heather, and it's nice to be on the other side asking you questions about your writing. And I'm wondering, is there anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't asked?
Actually, there is. Thank you so much for asking me that, Patricia. I have a newsletter where I send out twice monthly newsletters with stories, behind the scenes, updates. And for anyone who signs up for my newsletter, I have a prequel short story leading into both Sean and Kayla's books. It's called The First Day of Seventh Grade that I am revising. I'm adding a little bit more to it. Once again, making sure there's conflict in every scene. And so anyone who wants to sign up for my newsletter will get this nice little short story as a thank you gift. And my newsletter you can find by visiting my website, stillheather.net. And I'll also put a landing page here to BookFunnel, where who supplies my digital content. So I hope some more people sign up, learn
Very
more
good.
about it.
Wonderful, Heather.
And then Patricia, do you have a newsletter?
I don't
Oh,
yet. That's my next step after I edit. Well, I have 3 more chapters left of book 4, and after I finish editing that and put it out, I will be starting a newsletter and an author website. So,
okay.
down the road.
And I cannot believe I haven't mentioned this, but Kayla's Breakup Survival Guide, book 2, will be out in mid-September,
Oh,
a little
great.
about a month and a half away. And I'm really excited. I think I might even have another little freebie short story by then to go along with it.
Well, I'll be sure to read that one. Will it be approximately the same length as the first book?
Yes.
Great.
My goal is to actually keep all of my novels a little over between 50,000 and 60,000 words. So I think Sean's survival guide was under 50,000. It might have been around 42, 43,000. So, okay. Kayla's breakup survival guide is 52,000 words. So it's right there in my wheelhouse. That's what I'm aiming for. Even with
Great.
my sweet romances, I want a good solid book that I can finish in a few hours, like
Yes.
5 hours at the most.
Exactly. I think a lot of people like that to be able to pick up a book and, have a little journey that doesn't take, as long as War and Peace or something.
Yeah, and we joke in my writers group that is, of course, no more now, but we used to make it was just this joke. There's this writer who publishes like 800-page fantasies with 7 different points of view. And I'm
Right.
only reading that book for 2 points of view. So I skip all the others completely.
Yeah.
I don't care what they have to say.
I
I
don't have
skip
the
them.
brain for it.
So then that 800 book, I only read like 200 pages. I'm like, it was good.
I also like a book that when you read it, you're right in the story. You feel like you're there already and you're getting to know the characters. And some books, it's not that there's anything wrong with them, but for me, it doesn't engage me when I'm reading a book and you're 40 pages in and it's like I still don't know what's happening here. Who's who and what's going on? So, I mean, I just love a straightforward book that brings you right in. I found your book was that, definitely.
Well, thank you. When I'm just starting out reading a book, if those first few pages don't bring me in, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like 5 pages tops. Usually it needs to get me in a first couple of pages. And what I'm one of the nice things about writing for the middle school ages, as I found sixth graders are so persistent. They are willing to read the entire book, even if it didn't capture them until 40, 50, 60 pages. So more
Wow.
power to them. That's not me.
I might not wanna keep reading, but I probably will just out of guilt.
Mm,
But still, it's not my favorite read. If it takes that long, no, I'm not that too interested.
yes.
Anyways, Heather, it's been lovely chatting with you, and
It,
I look forward to your next book and anything else that you have to write.
Thank you so much for joining me here. This was great. I really appreciate you, and thank you, thank you, thank you for reading the book. Like I said, I feel like people are buying the book, but no one's reading it. So I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. It was a joy.
Thank you for joining us. Feel free to subscribe, like us, rate us. Look forward to seeing you next time.